Now, here's Steve the Bookman Eisenstein.
Good morning, my fellow rare bookians, and welcome to what will be a very diverse edition of Books on the Bookshelf. I'm your host, Steve the Bookman Eisenstein, and you are listening to us live on the WTBF radio networks. Take out something to write with, take out something to write on, and copy down this number, 888-575-4394. That's 888-575-4394. Before we get started, I just got to say it's kind of affected my thoughts this week, and I'm pretty sure it's been on all of yours. What went on in Texas was just horrible, and I just got to say I directed a summer camp for 2 seasons, not too far from there. And, it's just a horrible tragedy. And amen to everybody for what they've done. And unfortunately, too many people passed on in that. But it's really made me think about a lot of things. But for fate, uh, we should all go on much happier knowing we are all okay. But things like this just kind of stagger the mind. So anyway, we have been busy. Have we been busy? Later in the show today, Michael Christman is going to join us about 10:20. For those of you who don't know Michael, Michael's claim to fame in the wonderful world of rare books has to do with the Gutenberg Bible. Whether you're a beginner, whether you're a novice, everybody's heard. There's not too many people who haven't heard of the Gutenberg Bible. Some of you know that there's 49 of them. There's 49 known copies. Do we believe that somewhere out there are other known copies? Well, I do. I also think somewhere sitting in somebody's basement, hopefully not rotting, is an unknown set of Audubon's birds. But, dream on. So he's the only one that I know that has handled 8 going on 9 copies of the Gutenberg Bible. Um, we're going to be talking about his experiences with that, but more so, we're going to be talking about what was featured in today's promo for the show, and that's his new book on book repair and restoration and the courses that he gives in those areas. And they're very diverse, whether you are a seriously advanced binder and you want to learn how to do some kind of complicated headband stitching, or you're just a book dealer that wants to save money by doing some repairs yourself. Michael's got courses for you, and he's got thousands of followers, so he must be doing something right. Later in the program, it's the second Saturday of the month, so Max Roback will be joining us for a dose of book talk with Steve and Max, and Michael will also be joining us today. We're talking with Michael about the possibility of doing another once a month feature with him on restoration, so we'd love to hear your thoughts about all that. For us, this past month, it's just been amazing what we've been doing. And also, you want to check out, I'm sorry, you also want to check out Max's videos. That's Max Roback on YouTube. His paper and gold videos are just amazing. So we've been busy working on the collection that we acquired. Where did it go? Wait a minute. No, not the collection. There it is. I knew I had this just in case. Um, we've been busy working on the collection we acquired from that mansion on Miami Beach. Ephemera, really good postcards, documents, and such. They're going nicely. Um, Postcards, I've never had a collection of postcards, let's just say as strong as this one. And we all have had postcards, but this is a very strong collection. But we had to pause all that. And before I tell you what we paused for, let me give another shout out. If you are looking to send books to an auction house and you don't have Christie's, Sotheby's, quality material, It's a steep grid to climb to get into. Can do you have a dozen books that you could send to Sotheby's or Christie's? Well, God bless you if you do. I mean, and many of us do, but you know, yeah, not often. Let's put it that way. We're not often doing that. But at my point in my career, it is just the perfect timing to find an auction house that will work with those kind of the second tier of what we would call high-end books. And in all the years that I've been working in this business and with the various companies I work with, I will tell you that nobody fits that bill better than PBA, Pacific Book Auctions. I've watched them grow from their beginning when they started out with box ads in the Antiquarian Bookman's Weekly and then started taking over the back page. And, they are just phenomenal. Chris Dunlap is who I am working with there. If you have those kind of books, they should go to PBA. And what kind of books am I talking about? The Chagall lithographs, the buffet, not buffet, oh God, the Matisse lithographs. Unfortunately, the ones we had with Picasso were really damaged, so we disposed of them in another way. But if you have those kind of books where you don't have the clientele, you don't want to sell it to a dealer, get it to an auction house like PBA. There are many others. There's Addison and Sarova, but they tend to deal in more antiquarian type books. But as a general auction house for those good quality books that, aren't in the Sotheby's or Christie's range, I would unequivocally recommend PBA. They've done a phenomenal job for us to date, and I just got the review of the books I sent them, and amen, they took them all. So we had to pause. Why did we have to pause? Because all of a sudden, I've told you there's a stamp collection in here, okay? And I don't know anyone that wasn't a stamp collector when we were kids. Maybe you weren't, maybe you were, but the person who there were two people that I had as mentors who taught me the wonderful world of rare books. Harvey Stanson of Stan Books, he's still around today on eBay, Stan Books on eBay, and Jimmy Dore, who used to own Once Upon a Time Books with Harvey and then took over the store. Those were my two mentors for the books. But Harvey also, because of his father, got us into stamp collecting. Harvey's father collected stamps and coins, so, we would play stamps and coins, and we learned a lot back then. We were pretty good at it for back then. And one of the fathers in the neighborhood actually had a coin and stamp store. Um, but Well, before I go into the rest of that, I want to give a special shout out. While I was talking about PBA auctions um, for your books, if you happen to find a stamp collection and you think it might be something, his name is Marcus Brewer. He's been a guest on the show way back. We've been spending several hours a week talking. He's been updating my education. And I can't thank Marcus Brewer. I can't thank you enough for your professional assistance in updating my philatelic knowledge. And just because a good dirty joke comes in every once in a while, be very careful when you spell the word philatelic, because twice it changed to phallic on me and I didn't catch it. Hey, how are we in here so early? I don't get it. Okay.
Uh,
Hey,
I don't know.
Michael, I cannot hear you.
How about now?
Okay, now I can. Michael, you're going to have to talk. I don't know where your microphone is, but you're going to have to talk into your microphone. But you're in a little early right now, so just stay on board and if there's something about philately, jump in. I'm almost done with this portion of the monologue. Uh,
Really?
so we had to pause working on the collection. Marcus Brewer, philatelic. knowledge. He has graciously shared it with us. And what I learned in talking with my mentor in the stamp collection in earlier years was whatever you know about stamp collecting, whatever you think you know about stamp collecting, if you haven't looked at a recent Scott stamp catalog of the last few years, or you haven't talked to anybody about stamps in a long time, I will tell you what you know is wrong today. It's misinformation, and it's very, very different. So let me try and clarify that. We still got a few minutes here. What I learned was that most of what I knew was outdated, okay? I've talked often on the show about finding the family stamp album. Usually, if you're lucky, you can find some usable postage in it and maybe, a semi-scarce or rare stamp, but that is definitely not the rule. This collection violates every rule of hunting. We has everything in this collection, from coils to strips to rare to not rare, those packets you used to get on approval in the comic books and all that. This has everything. Um, as I said, though, it made me realize how little I actually knew about it today. Stamp collecting is alive, let me say that, but it has not increased in collectors. If anything, it's the exact opposite. It's got very few followers by comparison to the days when we were kids, and I'm 75. Dealers, though, have expressed hope for the future. Some factoids that I learned about stamps, if you happen to find a stamp album, and if it has a lot of usable postage, which you might not want, you can sell usable postage. But this is what I learned, and it's kind of shocking. First of all, if you haven't seen a new Scott stamp catalog since 2010, you're in for a rude awakening. There's new categories. It used to be new and used. Now it's new, used, hinged, unhinged, all these other slight variations in the descriptions. The thing that I found most shocking, but I've heard it fairly consistently, is that dealers will pay 10% of the Scott's catalog price as their buying price. So I'm not sure how that affects ultra rare stamps. I've been looking at, current catalogs, and I'm seeing some pretty impressive figures, but would they have been higher if, there were more collectors? Yeah, obviously it would be. But I'll find out when I contact a few of the stamp auction galleries what they say about the high-end stamps. So what I've always been attracted to is the free postage. Come on, one of our biggest consistent expenses in this business is postage. So if you can find postage stamps in these albums, especially if they're airmail stamps or those special delivery stamps or just high value stamps, they can really save you a lot of money. But sometimes you will find large quantities, maybe even sheets, corner plate blocks. Forget the word corner plate block. It doesn't mean what it used to, unless it's an ultra rare stamp. Stamps worth 50 cents or less. If you sold them in bulk, let's say you had $100 worth of stamps that are 50 cents or less, you would get $35 for those. You get 35% of face value. I got problems with that. That's what the stamp dealers pay. But what I found was experimenting on my own, I was able to get half for those kind of things. And it depends on who you're selling them to, I guess. And anything above 50 cents, here's where it could get profitable if you have a lot and it didn't cost you anything. Stamps above 50 cents, you can get 65% of face value. So, you have to then make the decision. We had a block of stamps that had about $100 value on it. And the question was, do we sell it at $65 or do we use it as actual postage? And obviously it was used as actual postage. So there's a lot of things to think about. Like I said, I bought a set of Scott's catalog. I learned all kinds of new categories, And the other thing, another word that we always love to hear, first day covers. They're just about useless financially now if they're not pre-1940. I have two large liquor boxes full of first day covers. I'm going to be trying some creative marketing. If you ever happen to run into these, maybe you can do it too. Is a book dealer. And if somebody, I want to know if I'll even offer a prize for this one. I'm going to ask the question. I want to hear your opinion. If you are the first person to call, we'll give you a prize. 888-575-4394. Now I forgot the question. Yeah, okay. If I had a package of, let's say, 10 first day covers that honored authors like John Steinbeck, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Hemingway, Faulkner, Joyce, whoever, Bret Hart. Bret Hart's on a $5 stamp, I'll let you know that. Um, would you buy them? And we're not talking about priced expensively, maybe, 50 cents, a dollar an envelope. So would you buy, let's say, 15 envelopes that had beautiful pictures of your favorite author's home with a stamp that features them and the, first day cover things? Would you spend, $10 for 15 of those to decorate your office? I am curious if anybody, the first person that calls in to discuss this with me and what they think about it, we will send you a prize. And on that note, I'm looking at the clock, and we got about 3 more minutes in this segment. So let me tell you another thing about selling postage stamps in bulk. I have put a limit on it. From now on, I'm doing it my way. $50 for $25 worth of stamps and to book dealers because the stamp dealers don't go for it. The book dealers realize that even if it's 15% more, go to a stamp store if you have one in your area. You can get them cheaper from them. But I'm going to be selling them at, $25 for a $50 package. Why? I experimented with Marcus, and like I said, Max comes through, PBA auctions comes through, Marcus came through. We were talking about it, and I said, Marcus, I'm willing to try and sell them in multiple $100 lots. So he called up, put out a post, and said, all right, a guy wants $200 worth. I started to count out $200 worth, and I got it. These are in 10 cent, 11 cent, these were 50 cent and under deals. So I got it. Then all of a sudden he calls me back and says, wait a minute, the guy now wants $500 worth. Do you know what it's like to count out $500 worth of stamps at 50 cents or less each? Tedious, boring, and never again. But anyway, that's the story on that. Stamps are fun. And I'll tell you, I still believe this. If the stamp dealers of the world get together, maybe stamp collecting should be taught in elementary schools because I think about it. I learned geography probably more from stamp collecting than I did from school. I mean, we learned a lot about it in school, but the augmented knowledge was, amazing because of stamp collecting. Who was the only one that ever heard of a country called Azerbaijan or whatever it was, the first one in the stamp album years ago. Anyway, so we're going to be doing a lot of researching on the stamp collection. I've got boxes of stuff that I haven't even opened yet, that we stored away from the last few days in the house. So, it's going to be a lot of fun, but we're also going to be going back to focusing on books, stereo cards, and postcards next week, if anybody's there. Open my eyes. I'm trying to. Michael, yeah, I'm sorry to leave you hanging there, buddy, but I think you're creating good stuff. We are going to be back with Michael Christman after these commercial words.
Welcome to Bucks on the Bookshelf with your host, Steve the Bookman Eisenstein. Steve the Bookman Eisenstein has been involved in buying, selling, and appraisals of rare books since 1968. This show has been designed with making money for the listeners in mind. More people know the value of coins, stamps, objects of art, and collectibles they do not own than the values of the books in their home library shelves. Now, here's Steve the Bookman Eisenstein.
Welcome back, my fellow rare bookians. We are about to go. Oh, wow. I'm sorry. It looked like somebody was skydiving out there, but it's actually a banner plane. Welcome back, everybody. We have a great guest today, actually, two great guests, but we're with our first one right now. So, for those of you who are new, and for those of you who are older audience members, you need no introduction, but for those of you who are new, we are going to be talking with Michael Chrisman. Michael is the only person in the world, and if anybody knows anybody that's handled more, we'd love to hear about it. Michael's the only person in the world I know that's handled 8 going on 9 of the 49 Gutenberg Bibles in the world because he has made a lifetime of studying about that book. But he's also a master bookbinder, restorer, and teacher in the field of book repair and restoration. So, without any further ado, Michael, welcome back to Bucks on the Bookshelf. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Um, for the audience that is new, give us a little background onto what got you started. I mean, to be able to say at this point in your life, I've had 8 or 9. Is it 8 or 9, Michael?
It's actually 9 going on 10 now.
9 going on. So you did see one since the last time. Okay.
Single volume, yeah.
9 going on 10. Take it from here.
Okay.
How did this journey start?
Well, first let me say this. There are a couple people that have seen more than I have. Now, Don Grover Cleveland, who wrote the census for the 500th anniversary of the Gutenberg Bible, I think he saw almost all of what we knew existed at that time,
Wow.
which when that was printed, it was 46, I think. Bring that down a little more current would be Janet Ing, who wrote the book Gutenberg and His Bible. It's a typophile book. And but I don't know if she's still with us or not. I think she is. But beyond all that, and then there's other ones. But my goal is to examine all of them in the course of my life, at least, and be able to do that. How I got into bookbinding? Well, my grandfather, Leroy Abraham Chrisman, he was a justice of the peace in our home community. Uh, what you would call today, we have them in Pennsylvania. I don't know if you have them down there, but we call them local magistrates now. And but he had a collection of books. He died a year before I was born, and he died in 1962. And but he was 12 years older than my grandmother as well. But he left behind a goodly amount of books, Dickens, Uncle Remus for whatever reason, and various different first editions. They were falling apart, and but I think beyond that, wanting to repair his books, probably the one thing that impressed me the most that I did not know until I became a fair amount older and before Grandma had passed away, and then is that he was a very good, close friend of a famous paper maker that we all know about, and that's Dard Hunter.
Oh, wow. I don't remember. I know you've told it, but yeah, that's for
That was
those of you, let me just interject for a second. For those of you who don't know about Dart Hunter is a name that you should Google for your own edification, and if you want to see some majorly impressive prices on paper sample books, look up Dart Hunter in auction prices or online. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Mike.
yeah, and when Grandma passed in '89, I found a big, large cardboard sandwich, about yay thick, 2 or 3 inches thick, and inside was original Dart Hunter paper.
Mm,
And so, with the watermark. I'm a paper maker as well, and you can't see all of it, but this paper mold here on my wall, if you can see it, that is an exact replica to create an exact replica of the Gutenberg paper.
mm,
I had that handmade 14 years ago.
wow.
But so when you think about Dard Hunter's watermark and et cetera, but you got to remember, we were Licking County, Ohio people. and he lived in Chillicothe, which is directly south of there, not extremely far. So I don't know any of their conversations. I just know received this from Dard, my friend Dard, and that kind of thing. So all I really do know is that they were acquainted and they called each other friends. That's all I really know. Beyond that, it's really, I guess all bells and whistles as far as what you want to think it is and this and that. But I keep it real, and but wanting to learn how to repair some of his books. And when I was that young, I'll be honest with you, I had no clue who Uncle Remus was. I mean, he could have been a neighbor to us, and I wouldn't have known. But of course, early on, I knew. The more I studied, and I was a good student in school and loved literature and so forth like that. Um, but then, I guess it was when I was about 22, no, 21, I became more interested in the Amish way of life, and we lived very, very close to one of the communities. So I joined the Amish and I drove a horse and buggy for about 12 years. And that was something that I truly enjoyed. I was a bookbinder in the Amish and Northeast Ohio, Holmes County. And so I was restoring family Bibles and rare books and so forth for people in Toledo, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Columbus, Dayton, Steubenville, Ohio, Wheeling, Pittsburgh. And because they all came up to the Amish community, and it made me want to learn more and more. And it was in the early 90s that I was speaking with Bernard Middleton on the phone occasionally. And in 1993, he invited me. He says, "Why don't you come over to England for the 1993 Society, or the Designer Bookbinders Guild annual meeting at Oxford University?" And so I went, and that just set me off on a path. And I was like a dry sponge beside a sea, because it was just like I wanted to drink in everything that he knew. I didn't everything, but we had a number of years together, and he came to my home in Ohio 3 or 4 times. I to his place 3 or 4 times. Constant faxes back and forth, phone calls. And that's back in the day when the thermal fax was like, wow, I got a thermal fax. And yeah, I mean, I can send a letter. And so it was really something that was important to me. My mailman's picking up a couple of books. I just had them sitting out here on the porch. Yeah. Thanks, Mitch. Yep. Sorry.
No, that's okay. You leave them out on the porch here, they won't get delivered. They'll get ripped.
Yeah. Oh, really? Oh, no, don't do that.
No, I go right to the post office.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's so easy for me. He's here like clockwork around 10:30 every day.
Are you rural, just out of curiosity? Have you got surrounding people and buildings, or are you kind of freestanding?
Well, no, I'm in a very quaint 1940s kind of complex. It's really,
Okay.
and it's a private community. But I am only 180 feet to Lake Erie this direction.
Oh, wow.
I can walk right over there, and they're all my friends.
Wow.
And they're like, "Hey, if you have family coming in, bring them over, sit out on the back porch, sit out on the deck." And
Oh,
they don't care if they're home or not. But I don't take advantage like that. But it's a beautiful view.
yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure.
And Canada is only like 58 miles that way. And not that I'm about to swim it. I never learned how to swim. But so, but yeah, I mean, bookbinding. Did I ever tell you the story about how I sort of grew in Gutenberg?
No, I mean you in bits and pieces,
This story,
but never with a chronological go
this,
for it.
this story will blow you away. And my sister, Mitzi, can vouch for it. Mom and dad are passed, but dad took Mom and Dad took us, me and my sister. You've spoken to Mitzi. We were on air.
Sure, I know. Oh, absolutely. I know who she is.
And I was 12, and I'm about 6 years older than her, so she was young. But anyway, I'll try not to elaborate too much. But so we went to Washington D.C. because even at 12, in second grade, I was drawing pictures of Washington and Lincoln and Jefferson. I loved art in second grade, and so they took us to Washington D.C. and we went to the Library of Congress. Now, there is a new case to house the Gutenberg Bible. There are 3 volumes at the Library of Congress, and it is the only 3-volume Gutenberg in the world.
Uh,
And it is an alum Todd pigskin dated 1564 or 5. And the velvet ropes, and you got to remember, this is back in the 70s. Velvet ropes were around it. And I was trying to look up over and look at the Bible, and my dad was telling me, now this was the first book ever printed. Of course, we later found out that it wasn't the actual first book ever printed. Korea did that in 1377. But anyway, the guard was talking to my dad, and he unclipped one of the velvet things. He just let me step in like one step so I could look in the case.
uh,
Now, fast forward to when I was 30. I'm a full-time federal employee, a conservator in the rare book lab of the Library of Congress. And on September the 7th, 1999, I was asked if I would like to join Tom Albro, at that time acting head of conservation, and one other conservator, to change out a volume, the current volume on display, the same case when I was 12. I'm looking into in my
oh, wow.
there I am with my head. They raised the glass, and my head is underneath. And I had the honors of closing that one and putting a new volume in. And I'll tell you, it just grew from there. Now, yes, there's been a few bumps in the road, and there's a good explanation for that. But you have mail on the back porch? I figured you must have mail on the back porch.
No, no, I figure it was radio, but I forgot we are recording. No,
Yeah.
we got a cleaning crew that comes here, and I give them the key in the morning, and when they're done, they bring it back. Usually they're not here on Saturday, but there we are. I'm sorry. I thought you would just go on.
I didn't know if I was
No,
supposed to.
no, no, no problem, no problem.
But anyway, so it's been an experience, and then beyond the Library of Congress thing, I was on the board of the Gutenberg Museum, the German Bookbinding Museum, 7 years in Mainz, Germany. And being there, I was in Germany twice a year for years. And every time I went, they would bring me an original. They also have 3 volumes, one complete 2-volume set, one volume 1. Yeah, one volume 1 and one complete 2-volume set. The 2-volume set at the Library of Congress was bound by Sangorski and Sutcliffe.
Ah,
And unfortunately, it's beautiful, it's nice, but the 1 volume is really important because it is, on examining that particular one, I was able to I was able to actually get all the measurements for the paper, the width between the chain lines and the laid lines and everything, to recreate this. So anyway, it's something I love Gutenberg. I love everything Gutenberg, and hopefully.
it's obvious. I mean, from your walls to your experiences. Michael, we got to hit a commercial break. We'll be right back with Michael Crispin after these commercial words.
You bet.
Who wrote the book of law? Tell me, who wrote the book of law?
Welcome to Bucks on the Bookshelf with your host, Steve the Bookman Eisenstein. Steve the Bookman Eisenstein has been involved in buying, selling, and appraisals of rare books since 1968. This show has been designed with making money for the listeners in mind. More people know the value of coins, stamps, objects of art, and collectibles they do not own than the values of the books in their home library shelves. Now, here's Steve the Bookman Eisenstein.
Welcome back, my fellow book lovers. Got questions for Michael or yours truly? Take out something to write with, take out something to write on. Copy down this number, 888-575-4394. That's 888-575-4394. Michael, before we start talking about your book, which really is the heart of today's discussion with you,
Yes.
and how people can order it. You mentioned something about Lake Erie and you're right near it. And I know that you, like all of us rare bookies, are a student of diverse history. And if we ever got on Jeopardy and they put up the right categories, there's a chance we'd clear the board. Okay. So that's if I ever got on that show, I don't mean this egotistically, but I do. I would love to have that record. I would love to be the one to be the first person to clear the board.
Yep.
Okay. So you mentioned Lake Erie, and there's a word in Hebrew called bashert. There's a word in English called fate, and all this other stuff. So I got to ask you this, okay?
Yeah.
This is something that I'm working on. Now, I'm showing this to Michael on the camera. For those of you who are going to see this on YouTube on Monday when we load it up, and for those in the audience that don't know, that can't see it because it's radio, this is an 1848 from the New York Erie Railroad Company. It's a $500 certificate, which back then, that's a lot of money. And it's dated July 1st, 1848. So it's actually almost celebrating its 200th birthday. In addition to the certificate, which is real, and the stamp and all that, there's a lot of writing, okay? So I'm going to mention a name, and I am curious in Amish or, in history, are these, I haven't had a chance to research it. I ran over to the drawer of documents and things I'm putting in for further research, but when you see a stock certificate, you can't forget you have it. So does the name, if I'm reading it right, Dodge, Dodge, it looks like Roberts. Does anybody named Dodge Roberts or Nathaniel Manley something? Marley, Manley? Any of those names ring even a faint bell in Amish history?
Oh, no, not in Amish history.
Any history in you might know.
Well, I've only been in Erie going on 6 years, so.
Oh, okay.
I'm not an Erie native, but no, those don't ring a bell. But I know people right here in my community that have been here all their lives, and they're in their mid-80s, so they might know.
Well, no, this was like an impromptu thing on the spot. If you knew it, the mystery would have been solved.
I would say this: that would look really nice, beautifully framed on my wall.
Well, let me find out what it's worth first, and then we'll see if we can gift you something or not. But
wow.
yeah, I don't know what it is. If it's a $5 or $10 document, which I doubt it is, it would be our pleasure to decorate your wall with it. But I'm not sure. There's something. You get this feel. Well, you don't book hunt like we do, so it's this vibe feeling. I've learned to I identify when the vibe is right, and pursue it. So this is just one of many projects in that drawer. This collection has just been so much fun, and it's going to go on for months. Tell us about the book, Michael.
Okay.
After a while, and before you tell us about the book, tell us how you can order the book. Let's get that in the front end this time.
The book won't be released until at least November.
Oh, okay. I'm ahead of my skis for a change.
But it's all written. It's all typeset. Right now, we're just doing little typesetting, little things. It's design things like designing the cover, designing the title page. Um, I've written my dedication, which I won't reveal. It's dedicated to a lot of people, but within one sentence. And so I'll let you savor that for a while. But then we're just finishing up the index. What I do want to say, there had been obviously Bernard Middleton's The Restoration of Leather Bindings, which is, it always will remain a classic. I I have gone a little step further on a number of techniques. We live now in an age where people they desire to restore books, even if it's just for themselves, but they don't know how, and they don't know where to get materials. They don't know there certain techniques, adhesives to use. Should I be using uh, PVA or, I mean, like right up here on my shelf, should I be using, I dropped over my water glass. Should I be using rice starch paste or methyl cellulose? It all depends. So, my book goes into sort of making things a little easier to get started and to get moving along and to, demystify, I guess you could say, in a way. I think a lot of readers or people who want to begin nowadays, they're on that they feel like they have to get all of this antique equipment to do it right.
Ah,
That's not true.
okay.
And I have students around the world. I have a student that has been with me over a year now in Tasmania. She, until just a couple months ago, never owned a brass wheel. Now, a brass wheel is something like this, which I made this one myself. So it's just a one line wheel, but
Is that the same as a roulette?
yeah, I mean,
Synonymous.
yeah,
Okay.
it's synonymous. I still own Hool Engraving Works, 1832, New York, founded, but these will cost you yeah, right, at $300 out of Britain. There's no place in America that doesn't. I own the business, but I don't cut tools anymore. I used to. Anyway, so I found this awesome tool, and this might be helpful to some of your listeners. But and I was thinking about a one line, a two line, because we needed to do that in one of our classes. Well, I have tools, but they didn't have them, and I found this little gem on Amazon.
Hmm. Looks like a pizza cutter.
No, no, it's a tool that you buy for about $12 in a window screen repair kit.
Yeah, to put the rubber in. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Got two lines on one side, one line on the other.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Tools,
Let me interject something for a second, or I'm going to lose it.
tools leather like a jet.
Tools. You made a tool. I know you don't want to spend a lot of time on making tools. I would presume there's more productive things, but there
No,
is a bookbinder by the name of Jim Andrews. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
I've heard
He's
the
the, he's the guy. He's been on the show many times, like you, and his specialty is who repairs the family Bible. Okay. I believe that he's capable of making those kind of things in his shop in I'm not going to say mass production, but if you two guys talked, I have a feeling there's business that could be. I'll set you guys up if you don't know him.
it's a real
Somehow, I think there's money to be made if you have students that want tools like you made and you're not making them. I mean, maybe.
uh, well, I'll tell you, in the back of my book, and I posted on I Am a Bookbinder Facebook page, now over 27,000 members.
Nice,
And so
nice.
I posted that if anybody, I would like to support the small businesses that's helping our craft. So if anybody has anything that they sell, I want to include them in my list of suppliers in the back of my book. So that's another thing we're working on between now and realistically September. Now, my book is being privately published. I've been offered publication by 3 different major printing houses on the arts.
Hmm.
I'm not interested in just the 3% commission that they offer. It's just so, and you know, it is about money in one way, and it's not in another way.
Well, when I spoke with Noel Hart when he was doing his, books on that was just the front counter bookseller memoir,
Yeah,
he said the same thing. I could do it cheaper overseas, but I want control,
right.
and you want control.
Yeah. Yeah, if I was to have a publisher do it, I would have no control over the cover art, a lot of things. And I'm not interested in that. And if that means I sell 1,000 less, I could care less.
I hear you. I
The,
hear you.
the book is for my students and the rest of the world that wants to learn. I was contacted by a member of the I Am a Bookbinder Facebook community who happens to be a buyer for Barnes and Noble.
Hmm.
And so she's starting the process for me to get it listed and yeah, right, put into Barnes and Noble.
Times 10. Yeah.
Bernard Middleton's books in Barnes and Noble, the restoration of leather bindings. And so it's like people go there looking to learn a craft, learn something that they can do. You know, my students, and if it's okay, I don't know if we have time before the next break.
Oh, yeah, yeah. We
Okay.
got about 3 minutes here. Go for it.
Okay, well, this would be enough time for that. So, um, it will. I guess this might be a good segue into the courses. And you know, my eldest student is 77. My youngest student is 17, whose father happens to be a rare book collector and seller. And I have taught him just we've been together for almost a year. And so actually he was 16, I think, when he started. I'm not mistaken. But anyway, beyond all that. Um,
Michael, let me interrupt you for a second, because you're going to stay on with us, and we'll work this in. But there's one thing that you haven't said yet that's really important. I know the book's not ready yet, but how can people reach you off air? What's the best way to reach you for your website, where everything would be, and so on?
okay. The website is www.restoringbooks.com.
Okay.
My, I don't know, I don't know if I should, I mean, I guess giving my email over the air is okay, but
Yeah, it's up to you. That's up
okay.
to you.
Well, that would be Michael@restoringbooks.com.
Okay.
Michael, not EAL. But yeah, I mean, that's the best way. And there's going to be a very inexpensive 1-page website for the book only. And there will be a link to that page on my restoringbooks.com, but you'll also be able to buy it on restoringbooks.com, as well as we'll do it on another show. But I've designed this really lovely tool for backing books, for making the shoulders of books instead of hammering them out. But
Huh.
we'll talk about that some other time.
Well, yeah, antique bookbinding tools. You find everything at garage sales, watchmaker. Very rarely do we ever find antique bookbinding tools. I'm fascinated by them. We'll
Great.
be back with Max Roback, Michael Chrisman, and yours truly after these commercial words.
This is our contract with our military. That when you go to serve your country, when you give your kids a kiss goodbye and you do not come home, we are going to give them a mortgage-free home.
There are over 7,000 service members who were killed protecting our country since 9/11. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation is now delivering mortgage-free homes to those Gold Star families.
I am Nancy Gass, the wife of Staff Sergeant Jerry Gass, Jr. My husband was 33 when he died in the line of duty in Afghanistan. The day those two officers